a little reminder, our digital technology should be an aid to travel, not the end of the travel. We live in a time, the Instagram time, in which, sad to say, there are many people that want to get to famous destinations so they can click a selfie of them with that destination in the background, then they move on, like almost like it was a consumer item or something they had to check off. And that's just a little sad because I think that the point of travel is to travel. This is a view of the city of Spoleto, Italy, where I was 2 years ago. Sad to say, it's 2 years since I've been there. I really miss traveling a lot. Now got some trips traveled planned next year. Going to go to Mexico in the winter and going to Italy now in the spring. I just made reservations the other night. But I like to say, enjoy the trip, not your smartphone. So this was Spoleto from the castle top, and this was the Center Plaza of Spoleto. A couple minutes later, I found these people. How often do you get a chance to take a picture of three people all looking at their smartphones or their digital devices in the same shot? On the phone, looking at the phone. They're in one of the most beautiful places in the world, and they're looking at their phones. Well, maybe they were all locals. Somehow the guy with the shorts doesn't look like a local to me, but anyway. All right, let's talk about what your mobile phone is. Number one, it's the phone. I still call this a phone, even though I probably about the thing I use on it the least, I'm just joking, is to make phone calls. I don't make that many phone calls, but we still call it a mobile phone. I like to think of it actually as a highly powerful pocket computer, which can also make phone calls. So here's the things you can do. You can make phone calls, and well, dumb. Yeah, we all know that. But remember, when you're overseas, maybe, or out of the country, you might want to make phone calls. And there's different things you can do to do that. I'll touch on that a little bit. You can use it to text. Again, when you're out of the country, you might want to send text either to somebody traveling with you, or you might want to send text to people at home. And remember, the phone calls and texts, once you leave the country, unless you have a certain type of phone call plan, I think there is one company that gives you unlimited foreign texts and calls. T-Mobile might be the one. Unless you have that plan, it's just going to cost you. And if you don't have a foreign travel plan or a SIM card or something, it can cost you a lot of money. Another good so those, I think of these as the communication apps. So the capabilities of your phone calls, text, email. We can pick up our email, any number of apps on our phone, and to multiple email addresses if we want. Then there's WhatsApp. Do any of you use WhatsApp? Just raise your hand if you use it. Linda uses it. Haith is shaking her head. Joanne, what about Louise? Are you using WhatsApp? Well, it's something you can look at. We do periodically teach a class on WhatsApp. WhatsApp is, I think of it as an international texting plan. So if I send text messages to people in other countries, that can potentially cost. But WhatsApp is an app which does everything that texting does and more, because you can actually make phone calls through WhatsApp, and you do it through Wi-Fi. Now, WhatsApp is available over cellular, so you can use it over cellular. You're using your cellular data, and depending on your plan, that might not matter. I have an unlimited data plan with Verizon Wireless, so I didn't really care. But what I especially use WhatsApp for, the nice thing about it is you can kind of send group texts or group messaging. And so I have multiple groups I'm part of. One is my entire family, and then one is like my son and daughter-in-law and wife about our grandson, because we babysit him. So we have our own little chat there, because we don't need to tell everybody about when we need to be babysitting Greg, that kind of thing. So WhatsApp is free. Again, it works both in Wi-Fi and for years, I would say for 5 or 6 years, I used it strictly in a Wi-Fi environment. And I used it especially when I was traveling abroad, because it had all the capabilities of texting. But I also made phone calls home through it, which was very nice. They're free in a Wi-Fi environment. So WhatsApp is something to look forward to. On your phone, it looks like this little thing right here. Easily confused with this little thing up here called messages, or this little thing down here called phone calls. I don't know about you, but when I these apps are all on my phone. They're laid out on the screen in a certain way, and I dare not change that because I open up my phone, I go to the screen, and I reach for that part of the screen that's got the app I know. And if apps have been moved, I'm in trouble. But I also see colors and things like that. And so these three look a lot alike, but they're in very different places on the screen for me. So I can't get them confused. So all of the things I mentioned about phone calls, text, email, WhatsApp, they're all can be done in Wi-Fi. Did you know, by the way, that you can set up to get phone calls over Wi-Fi if you're in a Wi-Fi environment? Let's say you're at home. And why would you do that? Well, some people like me have poor coverage in the house. I live on the side of a hill. It's a little bit of a cell phone shadow spot for T-Mobile and for Sprint, not for Verizon Wireless. Curiously, Verizon Wireless people can pick up their signals in my house fine, but if you're on those other carriers, they have a hard time getting signals. My daughter lives in Brooklyn, and believe it or not, some of these cities with tall buildings, those tall buildings mess up cell signals badly. Signals bounce off buildings; they can't get through buildings, or maybe. And so she has her phone set up, and it's just in your settings to get phone calls and Wi-Fi. So when she's home, she can pick up my call, but it's coming in through the Wi-Fi in her house. Before that, I had to call her on WhatsApp through the Wi-Fi in her house until I showed her how to do that. So anyway, just basic reminders. But when you're traveling, how you have your phone set up or what kind of plan you have can matters. And I'm not just talking about going out of the country. There are places in the U.S. where you can get really poor signal, and it depends on your carrier. I have Verizon Wireless because for years I traveled a lot with my work, and I needed the service that had the best coverage all over the country. That turned out to be Verizon Wireless, but they weren't perfect everywhere. I can drive, a half an hour, 45 minutes northwest of here into West Virginia, and I won't get a cell signal. So just keep that in mind. It can be not just going out of the country where these things matter, but being in the U.S. Any questions about anything I've brought up so far? Okay. Let's move on. Next for travel, your phone is a camera. Duh. Yeah, we all know that. But do a lot of us remember or think about the fact that the phone is a really good camera for travel because it records location? Even if you don't have cellular data on, your phone always knows where you are on the world, on the globe. There's a GPS positioning system between cell towers. It can always find you, even with your cellular data off. It still finds you. It knows where you are, and it will locate that picture you've just taken somewhere in the world, and it will also know what time it is, and it will know what time it is or was in that time zone. One nice thing I like about phones as cameras is they automatically change the date